A cold wind swept across the rooftop, helipad of Skyreach Industries, as Alina Hartley adjusted the collar of her tailored white coat, her heels clicking sharply against the concrete. The skyline of the city glimmered in the sunset behind her. Gold glass, steel towers, and the blinking red lights of aircraft beacons. Her hair was tied up in a tight executive knot, every strand in perfect place. She was a woman who didn't tolerate disorder. Not in her company, not in her life, and certainly not in her employees. She checked her watch, annoyance sharp in her breath. "Where is that janitor?" she muttered, pacing. The helicopter sat on the pad behind her, its rotors still. Every few seconds she glanced at it with irritation. She had planned everything perfectly. A meeting with a foreign investor, an urgent flight to the outskirts where an expansion site waited for her approval, and as usual her pilot had fallen sick last minute. The only certified backup pilot on the premises? The new janitor. A nobody as far as she was concerned. "CEO Hartley?" A soft, calm voice came from behind her. She turned sharply. There he was. The janitor. The man she had scolded earlier for mopping slowly on the executive floor. The man she had mocked when she saw him leafing through an aviation magazine during lunch break. He stood with a quiet kind of dignity, tall, broad shoulders, dark hair slightly tousled, and eyes that reflected a depth she never bothered to look at before. His uniform was clean but old, slightly faded from too many washes. He carried himself like someone at ease with the world, not like someone earning minimum wage. "You're late," she snapped. "Ma'am, it's 5:59, he replied, glancing at his watch. "You asked for $6. She clenched her jaw. Technically true, but she didn't like being corrected, especially by a janitor. "Whatever. Let's get this over with. You know I'm desperate because I would never normally let someone of your position fly me." He nodded, utterly unfazed. "Understood. I'll do my job." "Good," she said, brushing past him without another glance. But as she stepped toward the helicopter, she paused. Something mischievous sparked in her eyes. "Actually, wait," she said loudly. He turned. She folded her arms, smirking. "Fly this helicopter without killing us," she said mockingly. "And I'll marry you." The rooftop crew froze. The wind seemed to stop for a second. He blinked, stunned. "Excuse me?" She laughed. "Relax, it's a joke. I just want to see whether you'll panic. A janitor marrying a CEO." She scoffed. "Impossible." He studied her quietly, then spoke with a gentleness that only irritated her further. "You shouldn't joke about marriage, ma'am. Even for fun." "It wasn't a joke," she snapped with a smirk. It was mockery. He didn't respond. Instead, he walked toward the helicopter and began pre-flight checks with a level of precision that caught even the rooftop engineers off guard. They exchanged looks. One whispered, "This guy isn't a normal janitor." But Alina didn't notice. She was too busy scrolling through her phone, complaining to her assistant about incompetent employees and ungrateful investors. Then he said softly, "Ma'am, we're ready." She stepped inside, still annoyed, still ready to belittle him the moment he made a mistake. But there were no mistakes. The takeoff was smooth, smoother than any pilot she'd flown with. The movement was so controlled she barely felt the helicopter leave the ground. She frowned, glancing at him. "You've done this before," she said. "A few times," he replied. "A few?" Her voice sharpened. "Define a few." He didn't answer. They rose above the city, golden lights shining like stars below. His hands moved effortlessly, his eyes focused, calm. For the first time, she actually studied him not as a janitor, but as a man. And something about him felt trained, professional, mysterious. "Where did you learn to fly?" she asked. "Here and there." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give right now." She frowned deeply, annoyed but also strangely intrigued. For the next 20 minutes, she interrogated him, a habit she had with anyone she considered beneath her, but his responses were polite, controlled and minimal. For every sharp question she threw, he replied with steady calm. It was infuriating. Finally, she snapped, "Why do you talk like someone who's been in charge of something?" "You are a janitor." He gave a small smile. Strange how people define others by uniforms. Before she could respond, turbulence hit. The helicopter shook violently. She grabbed the seat handles, panic igniting in her eyes. What's happening?" "Do something." He was already doing everything. His hands flew across the controls with lightning reflexes, adjusting stabilizers, trimming pitch, shifting throttle with surgical precision. The helicopter steadied. Her breath came out shaky. You saved us." He didn't look at her. "You mocked a man flying a machine that weighs thousands of pounds. I'm just making sure we don't fall." She swallowed, ashamed but not ready to admit it. Minutes later, they landed safely at the expansion site. But the moment the rotors stopped spinning, everything changed. Men in suits were waiting, men she recognized. Volkov's security group. They stepped forward immediately. "Sir?" one of them said to the janitor with utmost respect. "We were told not to reveal your identity, but—" She blinked. "Sir?" The janitor lifted a hand. "Let them speak." The guard nodded. "Sir, your brother called. The board meeting is confirmed for tomorrow. They're waiting for your approval before releasing the new technology." Alina froze. Her heartbeat stopped. Brother? Board meeting? Approval? What board? What technology?" The guard looked at her, confused. "You didn't tell her?" The janitor, no, the man, sighed softly and removed his janitor cap. "I didn't think it mattered," he said. But to her, everything mattered. "Tell me what's going on," she demanded. He looked at her calmly. "My name is not Liam the janitor," he said quietly. "It's Liam Volkov, majority shareholder of Volkov Aeronautics, the largest private aviation developer in the country. I founded the company when I was 22. Stepped down last year to operate Undercover in one of our partner firms, this one." He nodded toward Skyreach. "Tower in the distance. Your company." Her knees weakened. She stared at him in disbelief, mouth parted, breath shallow. You're a billionaire?" "Yes." "And you worked as my janitor?" "I worked as a janitor," he corrected. "Not yours." But why?" He shrugged. "I needed to understand ground-level operations. It's easy to sign papers at the top. It's harder to see reality." She couldn't speak. She couldn't even blink. Her mind replayed every moment she insulted him. Every time she mocked him. Every time she called him just a janitor. And then, worst of all, "Fly this helicopter and I'll marry you." Her face burned with humiliation. The guard stepped back a respectful distance, giving them privacy. She forced her voice to steady. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" "Because people treat you differently when they know your worth," he said simply. "I wanted to be treated like a regular employee. And you did treat me that way." I'm sorry," she whispered. The words tasted foreign in her mouth. He studied her quietly. "Are you sorry because I'm wealthy? Or because you were wrong?" She didn't answer. He smiled sadly. "That's what I thought." He turned to walk away. "Wait," she said, stepping toward him. He paused. Her voice trembled softly for the first time in years. "You saved my life. You could have just let the helicopter crash, but you risked yourself for me." "I don't let people fall," he said quietly. "Even if they push me." Her chest ached. "Liam, I was cruel to you. I misjudged you. I was arrogant. Her voice shook. "Truly sorry." For the first time, something shifted in his expression. He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "Why does it matter to you now?" "Because I didn't look at you," she whispered, voice breaking. "Not really. And I should have. I see you now." He waited. She took a breath she wasn't sure she could take. "And about what I said earlier?" she whispered. "The marriage thing." A small smile tugged at his lips. "It was a joke, remember?" "No," she said, shaking her head. "It wasn't, not anymore." He exhaled, surprised. She looked directly into his eyes, voice soft and raw. "Liam, I didn't know who you were. But what you did today, it showed me the kind of man you are. Wealth or no wealth, it doesn't matter." He raised a brow. "You sure about that?" "Because, Princess, I scrubbed your floors yesterday." She laughed through nervous tears. "Then maybe I need to scrub some of yours." He chuckled gently. "That might be a first for a CEO." She stepped even closer. "Can we maybe start over?" He thought for a long moment. Then he extended his hand toward her. "I'm Liam." She smiled, genuinely, openly for the first time in years. "I'm Alina." Their hands met. Warm, steady, real. "And as for marriage," he said softly, leaning in just a little, "let's see where this flight goes." She blushed, biting her lip. "Only if you're the pilot." His smile widened. "Always." The guards nodded respectfully as he guided her. toward the car waiting at the edge of the helipad. As they walked together into the dimming sunset, the city lights flickered awake below, like a new beginning, bright and full of possibility. And somewhere in the golden fading light, a CEO who once mocked a janitor found herself falling, not from the sky, but into something far deeper and infinitely more dangerous. Love.